Ever pinch pennies all year for that one family vacation only to feel the budget blues afterwards? If so, I was just like you. After 3 vacationless years, I stumbled on credit card rewards travel and cracked the code to amazing vacations that I could actually afford.
Welcome to Wonderland on Points. In this podcast, you will discover how opening credit cards strategically can save you thousands on travel. We're not just dreamers anymore. We're 2 adventurous moms turning dreams into reality. Join us as we spill all the points and miles secrets.
And contrary to popular belief, you don't have to spend $1 million to earn 1,000,000 points. Traveling on credit card points isn't reserved for those with overflowing bank accounts. It's for everyday people like you and me, learning to turn routine expenses into free travel.
Consider us your points travel guides. This is Wonderland on Points. Let the adventure begin. Hey everybody, today we have a great episode for you. We are checking out an amazing domestic destination that is great for week-long trips or weekend getaways, and that is San Diego. As an East Coast girl and a Midwestern mama, you are really getting to see San Diego through the eyes of visitors for the first times, really dipping our toes into the Pacific. So it is a fun way to learn about a place from somebody who's not a local, but has the eyes of someone really exploring it and seeing it for the first time. Really full of wonder, I guess, is how I would say. So we're going to dig into that in just a moment. But first, Joanna, guess what's going on this weekend for me?
Oh, what is going on for you this weekend? I'm excited to hear about this.
I am excited to use a Hyatt Club Access Award at the Grand Hyatt, Washington, D.C.
Oh my gosh, that's going to be amazing because we've talked about this in the podcast a few times. Those club access awards are harder to use than people think they are. It's hard to find good places to use those. What are you doing it for?
This is a girls' night, so I am driving distance to Washington, D.C. You're right. It's so hard to find a great hotel domestically with the club access availability. And the Grand Hyatt Washington actually just underwent a renovation. So the hotel is all the rooms have been redone. The club has been redone. So I'm excited to report back next week. We'll let you guys know all about it. I do know that this week's episode, we're going to talk a lot about club access because you have club access in San Diego. And with club access, you can really eat dinner, eat breakfast, eat dessert. Like you can save a lot of money with club access when you can find the right place to use it. So let's just dig into San Diego. Let's get started, hear all about your trip. And then next week, I'll report back about the club in DC. How about it?
I think that's perfect. I am a little jealous that I'm not involved in this girls' night, but it's fine. It's fine. I'm really far away, so I'll allow it. Okay.
Yeah, you just need to move to the DC area. Come on down, Joanna. You're welcome anytime.
Last night, Juliet was telling me we had to move to DC because she said she needed a job and her job should be babysitting your children.
No way. Oh my
Yes.
gosh, I love that. And I would love to have her. A good babysitter is hard to find.
I know. I was like, her son is not that much younger than you. I don't know that she needs a babysitter. But
That's
she's
true.
like,
They're like, yes, less than a year apart, I think. Right?
I know. Yeah. Anyways, I thought that was a funny little cute anecdote to say that I wish that I could move to your side of the world. But let's dig into San Diego. Guys, this trip was amazing. Amazing. And what is so fun about San Diego to me is that you could go either direction. You could go hard with the activities, or you could really just relax and chill if you wanted to. You could do full beach days. You could do pool days. You can go either way. We went hard.
I love it. That's my preferred method of travel.
Yes, I
do all the things.
Yes. And I really, this was a birthday trip. I really wanted it to be special and memorable. And, we were somewhere new. I actually have been to San Diego like 15 years ago, but I didn't really remember any of it. So it felt brand new to me. And we really packed a lot of it in. We made plans for 2 of the days, like specific things we were going to do. And then our third day was kind of like open-ended. Here's some ideas of things we can do. So we're going to start at the beginning with how I got there, walking through the experience at the hotel, which was absolutely incredible. And then we'll end with activities and tips.
I love that you built in kind of a relaxing day. I do think that is really key. Even though I am typically go, go, go activities all day on trips with family, especially family trips. With girlfriends, I think I take it a little easier. I like to relax more with girlfriends, but when I'm with my family, we're pretty go, go, go. And so building in a rest day or a flexible day is really, really smart. So love that you did that. Okay, let's start with the flights. Which airline did you use? How many points was it? Give us those details. And hey, I believe you got to use your companion pass for the very first time, right?
I sure did. Now, when I booked this trip, and this is very interesting what happened. So when I booked this trip, first of all, it was all about following the points. I knew her birthday was coming up. This was back at the beginning of October, and she didn't want to party, and I was like, "Great, I'm going to take you somewhere. Let's go somewhere warm and sunny." And Southwest was having a great sale. So I was going through all of the potential options for places to go that would be much warmer and nicer than St. Louis. And turns out actually that we got very lucky with the weather that we had. Apparently, it's supposed to be much colder this time of year than it was when we were there. It was mid 60s and sunny basically every day except for one. And one day it even got almost all the way up to 70. And people told me that this is the rainy season. And I got really
Oh, for
lucky.
San Diego.
Yeah, I did not do research. I was like, it's California. It's sunny and warm all the time, right?
Right.
Nope. I just got
People on surfboards year round, right?
this is like the ignorance of the Midwestern in me, I guess. But luckily, the weather came out for us. So no complaints there. But our flights. So the flight there, I got on sale for 12,192 points per person, which to put that in perspective, these flights by the time we left were about 40,000 points a person.
Oh, wow. Yeah, you caught it at a
One
good
way.
time.
Yeah, for sure. So I purchased flights for both of us because at the time I didn't have my companion pass, but I knew that I was probably going to have it in time. So I knew that these second set of points would be refunded. Our flight home was a little bit more, 16,051 points, which is still, I can't even tell you how good that is because we're probably not going to get into the chaos that was yesterday, but we were in an airport from 8 a.m. until 1 a.m.
Oh,
yesterday. It
my
was
goodness.
a crazy, crazy day. San Diego has been dealing with very thick fog that's been rolling in, and it is just causing their flights to back up and back up and back up. So we had a lot of delays and a lot of cancellations. And I got to the point where I was looking at cash flights. Like, is there anything that can get us out of here any sooner? First of all,
Yeah.
there wasn't. Second of all, even Southwest flights, the cheapest option was over $1,000 per person one way yesterday, cash
Ooh,
fare.
yikes.
And then the points were about 40,000. So, Southwest is great when things get canceled or delayed. You can change for free. Now, I am going to admit to all of you that I did some very rookie mistake things yesterday once things started getting canceled and delayed, and I started panic canceling and rebooking. When
Mm.
you have a companion added, you can't change things easily in your app. And I was like at the hotel trying to pack up, get ready, panicking. And I was like, cancel, rebook, like trying to just find things. And then they kept getting delayed. And I realized later when I was thinking back on it that I cost myself points, which, by the way, I was not even paying attention to because I was so panicked about getting home. But
Right.
I should not have done that. I should have just taken a breath, probably called Southwest or just gotten to the airport and started talking to an agent there because I would not have had to spend any extra points at all. So I am admitting
We're not gonna worry about that.
we're
What's
not.
done is
We
done.
made it
Lessons
home.
learned.
But I do want to remind all of you that don't be impulsive and don't panic, because the best thing I did was just get to the airport super early anyways, despite things being canceled and moved and pushed, and talk to a person there, because there comes a point where you can't do anything online anymore. Everything says unavailable. And it was the angel of a gate agent the fourth time that we were being rebooked. And by the way, San Diego airport is crazy. They have different security for different gates. It is the most
Oh, I hate airports like that.
It's a terrible system. So gates 11 through 18 are in their own little weird round terminal with no space, one bathroom, one drinking fountain, barely any eating choices. And then if you need to go to gates like 1 through 10, you have to leave security, go back through security, and come back in the other side, which is so crazy if there are delays and cancellations, because they might rebook you on a flight in a different gate and you have to do security again. And yesterday the lines were so insane. And I do have TSA pre-check, but the rules are just getting made up as they go along, because one person was like, no, your daughter cannot come through with you. She has to have her own pre-check because she's 13. And then another person just let us walk right, because I just stuck in the TSA pre-check line every time. And I was like, we're just going to pretend like we don't know what's going on. The third time we went through security, I actually got in the regular line, because by that point, the TSA pre-check line was longer.
Yeah, that happens sometimes too, for sure.
The first two times that was not the case. But anyways, give yourself time when navigating San Diego, especially if you have noticed fog rolling in. Be hyper aware of what is happening with your flights. Watch the weather. Do not check a bag. People were waiting hours in line to check their bags. So those are my tips for that airport. It was absolute chaos.
Yeah. A couple things I want to say based on your experience. Number one, the companion pass. So companion pass is obviously something that you are just learning and getting used to, which is so exciting. You worked so hard to get it. One thing I've done with my companion pass that I feel like has really helped is I don't add my companion normally when I buy a flight initially. I may buy a flight right when the Southwest schedule comes out. That's typically when they're priced the highest. So maybe they're high right before the flight happens too. But far out, the prices are going to be high. I don't add my companion because I know good and well I plan to change that flight, maybe keep the same flight, but I'm going to rebook it to get points back, right? We're going to rebook as the points drop. Usually about 6 weeks out. They're probably the cheapest, 2 months, 6 weeks out. And so once I feel like I have the lowest price that it can be booked for, that's usually when I might go ahead and add my companion. Now, you're always running the risk. If a flight gets full, you can't add your companion because there's no extra seat. But
Yeah.
I have never really had a problem, even a week out, adding my companion. I don't like to wait that long, but I do recommend, because as you mentioned, it's super hard and annoying. I mean, it's not so hard, but you have to call them. It's a pain in the butt to change your flight once your companion is added. So just book your whatever flight you want. And maybe depending on the flight, I don't know. I tend to hold off from adding my companion until I'm really sure I got the best price. So just something to keep in mind if you're traveling with a companion pass.
Yes. And let me tell you a few other things that I learned yesterday. The first is that I had actually, on the way there, because I had purchased a flight for Juliet with points, and then I had made a reservation where I added her as a companion to mine. I had done that first, and then I had gone back to call to try to cancel her flight. And I had them do it for me on the phone, I thought, to make sure that everything was good. What the person on the phone neglected to tell me was, because there were duplicate reservations under Juliet's name, they actually ended up canceling both of those. So the day before our flight, I was on the phone with Southwest for a long time, over an hour on hold mostly, but making sure they could add her back in as my companion. Luckily, there were still seats on the plane, but because it was so late, she was a boarding group, like 3 groups behind. Like I was A and she was in C. And so then when we got to the airport, I had to go up to the agent and I had to explain the situation. And one person was like, sure, she can come on with you. And then the second flight, our connecting flight, he was like, look, that's really against the rules. I'm supposed to make you board with her back in C, even though I had paid for early boarding and she was my companion and she was a minor. But he was like, I'm just going to let you do it this one time. But he was like really serious and kind of scary. So
Yeah, that kills me because usually when you check in your companion, they
yeah,
automatically put them the spot right in front of you. So if you check in quickly online and it gives you B13, usually if you go to check in your companion, it will automatically give them B12,
yeah,
which is interesting. It like saves that spot right in front of you for when you
yeah.
check in your companion.
I,
So that's kind of annoying that he was dramatic about your companion being in the back because normally your companion would have been checked in right with you.
Right. And I had paid for early check-in because I on my credit card I have 2 free ones a year and I hadn't used them. So I was like, you would really send me back to C to sit with a child instead of letting her come up to the front with me. Luckily, he let me. It was fine. The other thing that I learned is because I was panicking yesterday, I had booked several options. Like I went into my app and I booked multiple flights. When I was talking to the agent who finally helped us get on the flight home, which by the way was not an option online, he found these connections for me in his computer. Nowhere in the system on anything I was looking at did it tell me we could go to Nashville and then Nashville to St. Louis. That was only because I talked to a real life person. So highly recommend that. But he said, you better cancel those other flights right now because if the system sees that you have multiple flights booked on the same day in your name, they will cancel all of them, which I
Yeah,
have
like that happened with
never.
Juliet.
Well, right. But I've never heard that before. I hear people talking all the time about Southwest and say, like, I have multiple flights booked on the same day because you can cancel 10 minutes before your flight. So I just keep my options open. So you would
Yeah.
just be careful with the Southwest system because I think there's a lot of things that people say that they do, maybe not knowing that it could end them with no flight at all. The airport was a crazy situation, but this is not important. This is just sweet and will make everybody smile. On our way there, we had a layover in Phoenix. And while we were in Phoenix, we were sitting next to the sweetest woman. Her name is Teresa. We are now friends on Instagram. She was such a delight. She was headed to Albuquerque and we just got to chatting with her. We were chatting points, we were chatting podcast. And then she found out it was Juliet's birthday and she handed her a $50 bill.
Oh my
It was
gosh.
the sweetest thing that I have ever. She was just such a joy. Like such a
Wow.
lovely lady, such a gift to meet her. She is, she said she's going to listen now because she is just trying to figure out the points thing for herself, like already in her regular life. And then we just happened to sit next to each other. And naturally, I cannot sit next to somebody without it somehow coming up.
Yes.
Well, I'm here because of points. Let's chat about it.
Let's
So,
chat about it. That is
yes.
so
So,
precious.
Teresa,
Love
if you're
her.
listening, we will be telling that story for the rest of forever because it was just so sweet. Okay, now we can actually move on to the fun part of the trip, which is not being stuck in the airport and panic and anxiety.
Yeah. Okay, let's get into your rental car. Let's move forward. You rented a car in San Diego. Did you feel, number one, that that was really necessary to rent a car? And how did you go about renting it?
Okay, so I personally thought having a rental car was the best choice that we made. Now, if we had not had a guest of honor booking at the hotel, thank you to our amazing guest on the podcast, Ben, who I'm going to link his episode below. Ben's big deal gave us a guest of honor booking. It transformed this trip. It was extraordinary. If we had not
Thank you,
had,
Ben.
thank you, Ben. If we
Thank
had
you,
not
Ben.
had that, we would have been paying $45 a day for parking. And
Yikes.
that,
Steep.
that adds up. So I looked all kinds of different places for rental cars. I browsed around through Costco. I looked through the traditional like Priceline Expedia methods. I looked through the Capital One portal, thinking maybe I'll erase this with Capital One points. Everything that I was finding was $300 or more for the 5 days that we were there. So I ended up on Turo, which I love Turo. Now, a lot of people feel skeptical about Turo because your Chase Sapphire does not provide rental coverage for your Turo car. But the thing to me is that sometimes the Turo car is so much cheaper that even if you add their rental coverage, which I think I paid like $10 a day, your car is still way cheaper and you're still getting coverage. You're still fine. I ended up finding a Chase offer for $40 off a reservation of $150 or more. And I think
Great
that
offer.
before the Chase offer, our total for 5 days was like $163. I actually even want to shout out this car by name because it was a Hyundai and the man who rents it, his name is Edgar. It was a fantastic car. It was very simple. It was just like a 4-door sedan. The location is over nearby the University of San Diego. So it is about 15 minutes from downtown. So the way that we did it was as soon as we got in to the airport, we grabbed an Uber over to our Turo car. Now, this was the one piece to me that I probably could have figured out a little bit better because when you take an Uber or a Lyft from the airport, there is a premium. They have hiked the price
yeah.
way up. If I had been flexible and thinking a little bit more, I probably would have taken some kind of metro or public transportation a little ways outside of the airport and then Ubered from a different spot because that would have been the difference between like a $35, $40 Uber ride to our car and like a $12 Uber ride, which maybe for some people they don't care. They just want to get there. And at the time I wasn't really thinking about it. I was like, let's just go get our car. But it was crazy because on the way back, the Uber was like nothing. It was
Yeah.
so
That's a
much
good tip.
cheaper. So, yeah, that was something that I thought of later and thought people could do this. And I would definitely recommend this car for like a small family who doesn't need a massive car. The gas mileage was incredible. Gas prices in San Diego are wild. If you are a Midwesterner and you are used to $2.40 a gallon, to see $5.99 a gallon makes your brain
Yikes.
explode.
This is why people don't want to live in California
I
anymore.
know.
Sorry, Californians.
I
That
was
is
like,
steep.
I was shook. I was shook.
I was shooketh.
Shook at the amount of times I said the word shooketh this trip because so many things about this shook me to the core. Anyways, what I did discover is if you go outside of the city, even La Jolla, the gas was like 4 something per gallon. And when we went the other direction towards the Tijuana River Valley for horseback riding, it was also cheaper. It didn't really matter because this car had such good gas mileage. We were driving every single day. And when all was said and done, right before I dropped off the rental, I only had to put $22 of gas into it.
Beautiful.
Yeah. I was like, how is this even possible? We drove every day. We were all over the place. But San Diego's not actually that big. It doesn't take that long to get anywhere. So
Yeah.
it worked out. It was great. So even don't be afraid of the high gas prices unless you're planning on going super far out to do some hikes and then it might add up. But I felt
might
like
need to budget more.
I felt like having a car was the right choice. I did notice there is a Metrolink downtown that does seem to be well oiled and working and going a lot of places. So if you're planning to kind of stay in the downtown area, you could easily make a full trip of that using public transportation. You can get to Coronado Island via the ferry. There's a ferry right from downtown. So there are options without a car. It's just going to be harder to do things that are a little bit further, like La Jolla, or like, we went out to do the horseback ride. Like, those are not things I would not want to Uber that distance. That would have been
Right.
a lot.
Okay, so let's talk about the hotel. I'm going
Yes.
to first give everybody the basics, and then we'll get into your experience because, guys, I don't know if anyone follows my stories or Joanna's stories, but she has a pretty epic story to tell. It is movie worthy, their experience at the Manchester Grand Hyatt. But first, just to set the stage, the Grand Hyatt is quite grand. I have stayed there myself with my family. If you are paying cash, that can run you about $460 a night with taxes and fees. That's kind of in the winter. In the summer, it can be $600 or more just for a standard hotel room, not any of the bells and whistles and extra stuff. So it is not a cheap hotel, but it's a great hotel to use points because it's a
Mhm.
category 5 Hyatt. So your off-peak price is going to be 17,000 points a night. Standard will be 20,000 points a night. And then the peak pricing, even when it's, the summertime, peak time to be there, it is going to be 23,000 points a night. So compare that to over $600 to pay a cash rate. It's a great place to use points. Now, as Joanna mentioned earlier, parking is very expensive as well, $42 a day.
Mm.
So this is also the perfect location if you can get your hands on a guest of honor booking that we mentioned our friend Ben's Big Deal gave to Joanna. It's a great place to use it because that covers parking. That will wipe out the parking cost. And then it also gives you club access. So if you use a club access award or a guest of honor award, you can eat in the club for free. So Joanna's going to tell us all about it. Now, Joanna, I know you booked a standard room, the lowest points you could, just a standard room. Let's talk about what you got because you, my friend, were not in any standard room I've ever seen.
And no, ma'am. First of all, I did book for 20,000 points a night. So this was an 80,000 point redemption for our 4 nights there, which was a lot. I tend to stretch my points, and I had a lot of people telling me San Diego is the place to go. This hotel is amazing. It's worth the points. And they were not wrong. This hotel is extraordinary. It was such a glorious experience. First of all, the staff is wonderful, kind, warm, welcoming, accommodating. I loved every single person that I interacted with. It was amazing. The property itself is stunning. I was actually super disappointed that we weren't there when it was a little warmer because the pool deck, okay,
Yeah.
such an incredible pool deck. I wanted to spend all day out there. It was just a little chilly. Now, the pool is heated. I saw kids in that pool most of the time that I was there. And I was like, all right. And you could see the heat kind of floating off the surface. So if I was a little braver, there's also 2 hot tubs kind of near the edge looking over. It's a great view. The hotel is also situated right in front of this super cute little area called Seaport Village, where you can walk through a neighboring park and you can walk the other direction around the marina. There is a roller skating rink outdoor right on this walking path, which Juliet did not want to do with
So
me.
fun.
I was so sad.
Oh.
I know. I wanted to go outdoor roller skating so bad. It looked amazing. There are so many options, even if you barely wanted to leave the hotel. It is just incredible. Plus, it truly is grand. It has 2 towers. It is like the most incredible thing to look at just visually. I went to the park kind of behind it and then just turned around and looked up and I was like, what a stunning hotel. And I don't think there's a bad view from any room in this hotel. So even if you are just in a standard room, you will have an amazing time. And I want to say that because I don't know that what happened to Juliet and I is something that will be easy to replicate. It was truly a gift. It was extraordinary and wonderful. And I am so grateful to the staff for making this happen for us. So when we booked this and then we were gifted the Guest of Honor Award, I reached out to the hotel, as I often do no matter where we're going,
Yeah,
to
and that's what we would encourage anybody to do that.
correct.
Definitely reach out, especially if it's a birthday trip like Juliet was taking, an anniversary trip, anything you're celebrating, always reach out and let them know.
100% let them know, because hotels love to recognize those kinds of things. And so not only did I mention that it was Juliet's birthday trip, but I did mention that we were going to be covering it on the podcast, because that is what we do now with our trips. We do these full deep dive episodes, and we know that a ton of you guys book the places that we go after we talk about them here. And so I wanted to let the hotel know, ask if there was anything specific I should focus on or highlight, that might not be something I would easily come across. And I said, if there's any suite availability, we would love to be upgraded. And they were so kind and wonderful. It was a great experience emailing back and forth with them. And they did tell me before I arrived that I was confirmed for a suite upgrade, but I knew nothing about what that meant. And when we arrived,
and I don't even think it means what happened.
No, I don't think so, because it turns out that the suite that we were put in is not even a suite that is in their inventory, meaning you cannot book it. You cannot ask to pay for it. You cannot pay an exorbitant amount of points for it. It is something that they reserve and place people in, I guess, for
Joanna went to California and turned into a celebrity.
No, stop. Okay. Juliet was like, Mom, you're not even famous. Why are we here? And I was like, all right.
This weekend you were.
You know what? You know what? I'm not famous, but we have a very loyal community of listeners, and we are so grateful for you guys. And because of that, we are able to do fun, exciting things where we get to report back to all of them. And so we're just going to be grateful and thankful and excited and just soak in every moment of this experience. So you guys, we were in the penthouse suite at the very top of one of the towers. I cannot even describe the opulence of this suite to you. I mean, when you walk in, there is this stunning round window, which, by the way, you can see from everywhere. Like, I could be down in the grass in the park behind and look up, and I was like, oh, there's our room, because you can't miss this big circular fabulous window. It had this stone balcony outside that wrapped all the way around to the front. It had these floor to ceiling windows in every room. And I say every room because there were 2 bedrooms and a massive living room. And I gave my child the master suite because I am a nice mother and it was her birthday. But to say that I was not a little salty about that, as the person who did all the work, would be a lie. I was super salty. And I told her, I said, I love you, so I'm letting you have this room, but I feel some type of way about it. The bathroom was just so extraordinary. I wanted to spend all of my time in the bathtub and like staring out the vanity window. The second bedroom was much more like a standard hotel room. It's still very nice. And it had glorious windows and a great view and a nice bathroom. But that master suite was like nothing I have ever seen. So
I love this for you so much, because even though this was a very special and unique experience, it wasn't something maybe that can be replicated. But I love it because, as you have talked about on the podcast many times, we started this podcast because you realize you went 3 years without a vacation. You work in the service industry, caring for someone's children, and as a household manager, making sure that someone else's life runs as smoothly as possible. You think of things they need before they need them. You serve that family so well. And so from me on the outside looking in, as you were telling me about this and sending me videos, my heart just swelled with like joy and thankfulness, gratefulness for you to get to have this experience. I'm just still overcome by it. And so, we were hesitant to even tell our listeners because it's such a unique experience that can't necessarily be replicated, but it's just so special. And I mean, everything about this trip was just watching from afar such a unique blessing and special time, from the lady giving you $50, Juliet, $50 in the airport, to now you show up and you have this grand suite. I mean, just overcome with gratefulness for what this trip brought for you and your daughter. Unbelievable.
Okay, well, I'm going to cry. So thank you for that. But it's true. I feel exactly the same way. I feel so humbled and blessed. And this was such a gift that they extended to us. And I work all the time and I work very hard. And then when I'm not working, I'm doing this podcast. And it was such a joy to be able to have this week and to share it with my daughter. And truly, it's hard to imagine we would ever stay in a place like this ever again. So this will just be one for the ages. And even if we hadn't been in that room, I would have recommended this hotel over and over and over and over again.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I stayed there in a standard suite, so I can speak to that and definitely say it was worth it for my family in a regular double, 2 queen beds or 2 double beds room. We could still see the water kind of from a sliver of our window. It wasn't like an oceanfront room, but you could definitely, from a standard room, see a little bit of water. And I think the way the hotel is angled, most rooms probably can. So you saved a lot of money by having club access. Let's move on to the club, because that is something people can replicate. You
Yes.
can try to use a club access award. You can book a room that has club access, or with the guest of honor award. There's a lot of ways to do that besides just being globalists, which are, that's the highest level with Hyatt, and globalists have access to the club always. But without being globalists, people can still get club access. So tell us how you were able to make the most of that.
Yes. So, first of all, if you guys are not in Facebook groups online where people are trading or gifting club access awards, guest of honor awards, you should be, because many, many times people who are globalists, which is very hard for a family to achieve, it's very difficult for families with jobs to stay as many nights as necessary to achieve globalist status. But globalists are often looking to give away their awards before they expire or make a trade for them. You've done this. And I
Yes.
am shocked by the amount of times I see them offered in these groups. So go search on Facebook, try to find them. Even if you think you don't know anybody who could maybe gift you a club access award or guest of honor booking, you still actually might be able to snag one. There are so many generous, lovely people online who are trying to make sure those are used, because when a guest of honor booking is used, it counts for both the globalist themselves and it gives you credit for nights stayed. So it benefits both people if the person who originally had the award is not able to use it.
Yeah, and I'll give you a hot tip that at the very end of the year is a great time to maybe be able to snag one of those guest of honor awards, because the globalist doesn't get credit for every night that you stay, but they do get one night of elite credit when you stay. So there were a lot of globalists trying to give away awards because they wanted credit for a night stay to try to keep their globalist benefits.
Mm-hmm.
So the end of the year is a good time. And then there's a lot of awards that go through the end of February of the following year. So a lot of people have, again, guest of honor awards, club access awards that end at the end of February. So if you have a trip in January or February in those groups, there are a lot of times, I mean, the groups are made for trading, and I have made trades. I've had a free night that I gave away in order to get a guest of honor booking. I've made trades. But this time of year, those groups are hopping with people giving away awards. So just a little hot tip for you.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so moving on to the club itself and why this was such a highlight of the trip, and absolutely the way that I would recommend going if you have the option to do so.
Hey everybody, we are going to get right back into today's episode, but first we want to tell you about a way that you can support the podcast. If we are bringing value to you, if you are learning new things that can help your family travel more for less, then consider buying us a coffee.
We put a ton of hours of work into this podcast every single week, and it is our mission and our goal to teach you guys how to travel on points, to create a space where you guys feel like you're just sitting down with a friend to have a cup of coffee. We want you to laugh. We want you to cry. We want you to hear all of the vacation stories that will inspire you and your family. So if you are getting value from us and you are enjoying these episodes, this is such a great way to show your support.
So visit buymeacoffee.com/Wonderland on points. When you choose to become a sponsor of the podcast through Buy Me a Coffee, you are actually helping us get the money that we need to buy nicer equipment, a new computer for Joe. We have some very tangible items that this will help with. So we hope you will consider it. Now back to today's episode.
You could go your entire trip without spending money on food if you really wanted to. Now, the problem with this is that there's so much great food in San Diego that people might want to try. And
Right.
I understand.
So many good restaurants.
Yeah, and I understand that impulse. Like I went into this saying like we're going to load up on the free club breakfast, we're going to do the hors d'oeuvres in the evening, we're going to keep our food budget low. I still ended up like venturing out to different places to try things. So the breakfast, okay, that's where we're going to start. The club breakfast was amazing. The hot options were fine. Every day there was scrambled eggs, not like a powdered scrambled egg, like a very decent scrambled egg. And then there was a potato option and a meat option. And those were good. I wouldn't say like the best I've ever had, but they were not like a Hyatt Place hot breakfast option on a buffet. In addition to the hot options, there is such a spread of fresh fruits, like really yummy fresh fruit, peak ripeness. Like I had pineapple every day and it was so glorious. There was a daily rotation of pastries that was incredible. There was croissants and cheese danishes and little muffins and like banana bread. And so if you wanted to load up on pastries, you totally could do that. There was coffee, juice, milk. There was a great little oatmeal bar where you could make like a really nice bowl of oatmeal with all the toppings. And then my favorite thing was there were meats and cheeses. And I know this sounds weird maybe to Americans. That is such a European like breakfast to put some meat and cheese on your plate. And I was here for it. They say that you are not supposed to take food out. But when you have a child who is a sleeper, they are pretty kind about letting you do that, especially the first night. Juliet was not feeling super well. And I asked if I could take a plate out of the evening lounge for her, and they were like, okay, you know, you're not really supposed to, but okay. They were very kind about it. In the morning, it's pretty easy to just, you know, pop some pastries in a bag, which is all she really wanted to eat anyways. My spirit animal was the lady at the breakfast buffet who I saw putting bacon in a coffee cup and just and just had this big bag under her arm. It was just going down the line, just taking food and just putting it directly into the bag. I was like, okay, I see you. Game sees game.
Respect. Little head nod, respect.
I was like, I see what you're doing. You're going to fill up all day. There's your lunch right there. And that certainly is an option. I never want to get in trouble, and club access feels a little bit different than like a Hyatt Place breakfast buffet where you can really just take what you want and nobody cares. It's a little bit more exclusive. You got to give your room number to get in. There's kind of like a guard. It feels a little bit like I don't want to break any rules here. So I was pretty careful about it, but it is an option. They did let me take food out to Juliet sometimes. It was nice. So the breakfast highlight of my day. I was up every morning down there eating that breakfast and just really enjoying it. The evening hors d'oeuvres, I think it's crazy to even call these hors d'oeuvres. It was a full dinner. Granted, they have one hot item, like one protein, one side dish, and then there's a full salad bar every single night that also has meat, cheese, bread, little things you can snack on. I don't love fish. So the first night there was like a braised short rib, and that was amazing. The second night there was shrimp, and I'm okay with shrimp. It's not my super favorite, but I ate it. It was good. It had good flavor. The third night there was a fish. I don't even remember what
No,
kind of fish
I'm out
it was.
on that.
Yeah, you know what? But Juliet ate it and she liked it because she's a fish girl, and she actually made me try it, and it actually was good. Like it probably wouldn't be my first choice. I would rather just have a big salad, but I did not dislike it. So they do a great job with their cooking. Everything is very yummy. You could easily fill up at the salad bar or the meat and cheese or the hot item if you liked it in the evening if you wanted to. Now, the club, while we were there, did get really busy. It was hard to find a spot to sit. And I think part of that is because we were there during New Year's Eve week. There were a ton of people because the hotel had New Year's Eve parties and all kinds of offerings, and they were still decked out for Christmas. So I think people were kind of squeezing in their last little bit of traveling. So it was a very popular time to be there.
Okay, so you were able to get breakfast and dinner out of the club.
Mhm.
However, I do know that you also took advantage of that Amex Gold Resi credit one night for dinner.
I did. I did. And Juliet was not feeling great that night. She had a headache. She was not hungry. So she laid down. And this is the great thing about traveling with a teen is that I feel fully comfortable leaving my teen in the penthouse suite with locked doors to run across the street to a restaurant. And I did. That is the glorious thing to look forward to, those of you who have young children.
Ah, yes, one day.
One day. Yeah, because I wasn't bound to the room if she didn't feel up to doing something I wanted to do. I would say that this restaurant behind the hotel, Malibu Farms, first of all, delicious, incredible, like farm to table, super cute. They've got this nice heated patio. They give you blankets. It's amazing. I would not say it's a place for picky eaters.
That's a good point.
There was nothing standard really. There was a little kids menu. Maybe those things would have been fine. But I would say if you are going to spend the money there, you're going to spend your credit there. Look at the menu ahead of time. It is very expensive. The credit, only got me so far because I chose to get a drink and I chose to bring Juliet back a salad that she could enjoy either that night or the next day. So really, I ended up spending about $20 out of pocket with what I bought and, her food. But for anybody that doesn't know, really quick, the Amex Gold comes with multiple credits and benefits every year that help outweigh the annual fee. And you get $100 a year in Resi credits. And what that means is any restaurant listed on the Resi platform, you eat there, you pay with your Amex, they give you a credit. You don't even have to make a reservation. This restaurant was steps from the hotel. They also in the mornings have a little cafe that opens that has like pastries and coffee and stuff. I didn't go in, I just looked at it from the outside. And I thought that would be a great way to make your credit stretch a lot further. So
Yeah,
that is an
especially if you didn't
option.
have the club access.
Correct. Yeah, 100%. But I would highly recommend it. It seems like during peak seasons, you might want to try to get a reservation there because it was just me all by myself. They were able to kind of squeeze me in, but I did have to wait in a little bit of a line to put my name in and then wait for a table to open up. So the whole Seaport Village area behind is worth exploring. It was incredible. There are cheaper food options back there than what you're going to find in the hotel, and they were very good. There was a place called Crack Taco. It was delicious. The tacos were about $6 a piece. That will stretch your dollars a little bit further than trying to get food from restaurant hotels. Now, we were gifted $300 in food and beverage credits from the hotel, which was extraordinarily generous and amazing. And so that allowed me to try all of the restaurants in the hotel. I did try the Brew 30, which is the burger place. That was a very delicious burger. We also had the pretzels, those were really good. And then I was also able to go up to what's called the Top of the Hyatt, which is a place that's really more for drinks and the view. And then they have little appetizers, which I didn't get any of them, but they all sounded very good. I did get a drink. It was extraordinary. Again, these are very pricey options, but sometimes it's fun to splurge a little. The view at sunset with the drink, especially when that restaurant was decked out for Christmas, was very cool.
Yeah, the ambiance sounds just fantastic, spectacular.
Yes, it absolutely was. And then they also have a little market there where you can buy snacks and like ready to go sandwiches, and you can get coffees. It's like Starbucks coffee. It was very good. The lattes were great. The pastries and sandwiches were very good. So there are options if you want to spend your money in the hotel on food, but also if you want to go out and explore, there are options as well. And they are going to be cheaper.
Yeah. Okay, let's get into activities
Mm.
because you guys, like as you mentioned, you didn't just sit around and chill, although this is a great hotel for doing that. You guys went horseback riding, you went kayaking, you went jet skiing. So tell us what activities ended up being your favorites and maybe some tips for how you booked them to save money because you do still have to pay out of pocket
Mhm.
for activities when traveling, but there are some things you can do to at least get some cash back.
100%. So when we're booking on points, it allows us to stretch our travel budget in other places, such as excursions. So I definitely went a little hard on the excursions and not what I would normally do. I wouldn't normally book this many things for this cost. Specifically, the horseback riding was very expensive, and that one did not come with any way to offset the cost. So, just so you know, I could not find any horseback tours available during the time that we were going to go through Groupon, Get Your Guide, Viator, any of those things. So,
But I know that was the birthday girl's, like, one wish,
yeah,
right? She
it
wanted to go
really was.
horseback riding more than anything.
Yeah, it was her dream. And it ended up being about $130 a person for this 2-hour ride through the Tijuana River Valley. It was with a company called Ponyland, which I know sounds like you're just like going to go ride a pony at a kid's birthday party or something, but they were
It does.
incredible. The guide, Hannah, was extraordinary. The ride was beautiful. The Tijuana River Valley is so cool. It's just kind of like this desert looking thing. We went up to the mesa and overlooked everything. And then we came down and we rode through the jungle. And it was such a cool experience. She was a great guide. I would highly recommend it. But again, pricey, and really, the most I got for it was points by booking on my Capital One and getting 2x on
Okay,
that.
well, that's good, though.
It
Points
is
earning, maximizing what you were able to maximize.
right. And it is very cool to be like riding on horseback through this desert looking cool, all these unique plants that I've never seen before. And then you just look to the left and it's like, oh, that's Mexico right there, past that kind of crazy wall running through the mountains. Like, it was really, really interesting. She gave us lots of history and tips and facts and all kinds of stuff. So super good. That was actually, our second full day there that we did that. The first day we went to La Jolla, and I think most people have heard of La Jolla and are familiar with it. You do not want to miss La Jolla, in my opinion, if you're in San Diego. It is so cute and so fun. Shops, restaurants, you can walk around. You can go down to Sea Lion Beach in La Jolla Cove, and you can just see piles upon piles of sea lions and seals. There's seals a little bit further down in the wild, just hanging out. They're right there. In fact, if you go down to the beach and there are sea lions down there near you, you can get up close to them and take pictures of them. Juliet did not want to walk down to the beach. We stayed above because we didn't go over to the beach until after our adventure, which turned into a little bit of a mishap. I am not going to get super into detail. What I will say is that we booked through Viator an everyday California ocean kayaking tour. And it was great. I did it when Rakuten was having a 12% back on Viator. So that is an incredible way to earn a chunk of points. It was $129 for 2 adults for a what was called Original La Jolla Sea Cave Kayak Tour for 2. Felt like a few things about this were a little bit misleading. We thought we were going to be going into the sea caves, especially because the picture on the booking is people inside a sea cave. There are very limited times a year where you are allowed to go into the sea caves because when it is choppy, water is flooding in those caves at a high pace, and it's very dangerous. The time of year we were there is not a time of year you get to go inside. You just kind of get to go past them on the outside and see that they exist. Regardless, I would still do this tour. I would just want people to know that ahead of time because that was not clear. But we had 2 guides, Victoria and Christian. They were absolutely incredible. Another thing that nobody mentioned is that if you are a motion sickness person, kayaking will absolutely destroy you on the ocean. Okay?
Oh, goodness gracious.
For whatever reason, I thought I've been on a surfboard, boogie boarding in the ocean. I swim in the ocean. It's probably like that, right? You're so close to the water. You're basically in it. You're basically part of it. I did not anticipate motion sickness, and not a single place where I booked or was reading reviews did anybody mention that I should take medicine for this. The great thing is that they have medicine in the shops. The bad thing is that I didn't see it until afterwards.
So you were on the water and needing the medicine.
Correct. And I will back up a little bit. We rented an all-day snorkel package and wetsuit rental for $30 a person through something called the La Jolla Outpost, which is up by the Sea Lion Beach. And my plan was we get these wetsuits, we have the flippers, the masks, all the things. Then we put on the wetsuits, go over, do our kayak tour in the wetsuits so we don't have to rent wetsuits from the kayak tour. But the kayak tour will help orient us to the area so that we will be able to come back out and figure out where we can and want to snorkel. Now, granted, it is very cold. The day that we were out there was actually very overcast. So it was not the best, but I had booked it all in advance. And people do snorkel and swim this time of year. It's kind of crazy to me, but they do. And Juliet wanted to. So this is why I thought that this was going to be a good idea. And that was another one that I booked through Viator, through Rakuten, to get more points. So we are in our wetsuits from that company. We are on this kayak tour, and I, about 45 minutes into it, am so nauseous. I am having trouble even enjoying the experience. And it was very cool. There were dolphins in the water really close to us. There was a sea lion that went right by the kayak. It was an extraordinary experience to be out on the ocean in a kayak and have so much wildlife right there. I cannot imagine a cooler way to see dolphins than in such a tiny boat, and they're just right there. There was a little mom and baby just hanging out. We saw them a couple times. I guess they went back and forth. It was so good. I'm a little sad that I wasn't able to grab a video of it. But first of all, I was seasick. And second of all, they were popping up and down so fast that I would like miss them because they're quick. So they're in one spot and then you try to catch them again with your camera and they're in another spot. And I was like, you know what? Actually, my child said, Mom, just enjoy the moment. And I was like, you know what? You are right. You are right.
From the mouths of babes.
I know, right? Anyways, just to be fully transparent, I was the one person who threw up on this tour. So if you have to throw up into the ocean, just know that the guides are very kind and make you feel great about it because they're like, I bet you feel better now. Don't worry, this happens at least once every single tour. And I was like, if this is truly happening every tour, why is nobody making an announcement about this beforehand, telling you to buy drugs?
True. Drug up. You know my family would need to.
I had the things. I brought them because I thought we were doing a harbor tour. After the kayaking, we actually decided not to go snorkeling because I was unwell and we were both so freezing and I was still so nauseous. Unfortunately, that cut that section of the day short. So we truly wasted $60 on the all-day snorkel rental. But in the warm season, I think that this would be the way to go because after you return the kayak to the beach, you could have stayed in the water. You could have gone down a ways to another snorkeling spot. It would have been an amazing thing to do if it had been quite a bit warmer and sunnier and more visibility in the water and if I hadn't been seasick. So I do think it was the way to go. Just didn't end up working out for us. We also ran up to this place called the Burger Lounge, which we were able to walk to from the place we returned our wetsuit rentals. And it was the best burger that I've ever had in my entire life. It was pricey.
That is big. That's strong words.
It was a grass-fed burger. It wasn't even like a sit-down place. It was like a walk up to the counter and order and then sit down place. It was absolutely delicious. I had the truffle burger. Juliet had like more of a standard classic cheeseburger. It was so good. I will dream about that burger for the rest of my life. So Burger Lounge.
Sounds delicious.
Yes.
Well, you guys did not shy away, despite being so sick, from heading back out on the water. After a couple days, you guys went jet skiing. So did you recommend that? Did you have the same trouble as kayaking with the jet ski?
Not at all. And I have been jet skiing many times, like on Lake of the Ozarks. And lakes get just about as choppy as the bay because really the choppiness is coming from boats and wakes. And for some reason, when I'm driving anything, I don't get seasick. Although I did take a Zofran before I started, which is nausea medicine, not seasickness medicine. I didn't want to Dramamine myself and be tired. So this was kind of a spur of the moment thing. We had decided that we were going to pop across to Coronado Island because it is a quick 10-minute drive from the Manchester Grand over to Coronado Island. You go across this big bridge. It's a little scary to be on a big bridge over the ocean for that long. This island is extraordinary. I wish that we had spent way more time there. I would have loved to just park and wander around the downtown, but we had seen jet skiers in the bay and Juliet was like, I wish we could do that. And I'd kind of looked into it beforehand and it looked really expensive. So we had not, but then very last minute, I went to the Capital One shopping portal. They had a little bit of an elevated offer on Groupon. So I popped over to Groupon through Capital One shopping, and there was a jet ski rental for 45 minutes for 2 people for $49. And I was like, I'm going to do it. We're going to do it.
That's right.
And
go big or go home.
Yes. So that was on the bay side of Coronado Island at the Marriott that's there right on the coast. So you could find street parking, which we did not have time to do because our reservation was coming up and I didn't want to be late. So we did end up paying a stupid amount to park in the Marriott hotel parking. It was $10 per hour and we crossed over into the second hour. So it was $20. That pained my soul. If I had known street parking would be that tough to find, I would have gotten there earlier so we could really orient ourselves and find parking on the street for free. After that, after we left the jet skiing, which was so fun, by the way, I enjoyed driving that. We were able to go over and look at a retired Navy aircraft carrier, and it's very cool to see from the water. We were able to go all over that bay area. We just had a lot of flexibility and then just had to bring it back when our 45 minutes was over. It was amazing, definitely worth the money. On our way out of there, we kind of circled around the outside of Coronado Island, and I started seeing signs for the beach. And I was like, well, obviously we're going to stop by the beach while we're here because we haven't done that at all. And if we're in California, we better go see a beach. Coronado Beach is stunning. It is absolutely gorgeous. We were able to find parking right on the main street, totally free, walk over to the beach. And I go down and I put my toes in the water and I look down and I'm like, why is the sand glittering? And naturally, I do a quick Google and find out that Coronado beaches are famous for their gold glittering sand. There is mica in the sand, which is a mineral, and it glistens in the sun. It looks like there are actual flecks of gold floating in the water. It is
so pretty.
I wanted to stay there all day. We had not prepared to stay there all day. We hadn't brought anything. I didn't know this existed. This part of my research fell through the cracks. If we had had more time and if we had wanted to kind of go back to the hotel and regroup and come back out, which we didn't because it was already getting late, the sun was starting to set, I would have baked that into our trip. I would bake in a whole day to stay on Coronado Beach and to explore the island and to walk around. So just for anybody planning that, I would highly, highly, highly recommend that. And it actually seems like a little bit easier to get around than La Jolla. So if you only want to pick one and you're not partial to seeing sea lions, Coronado might be easier to get to from downtown, especially because there's a ferry.
That's good to know. So as we're wrapping up here, that was a good tip of something maybe you would do differently if you went back a lot more time for Coronado Island. Is there anything else that looking back on it now as a completed trip, you would change or you do differently, or just a last tip to leave with people who may want to plan this trip for themselves?
Honestly, I was very pleased with how every aspect of this trip went. I thought I did a ton of research ahead of time. Everybody told us to do the zoo, and I was like, you know what? We don't really want to. We have a great zoo here in St. Louis. I know the San Diego Zoo is famous, but Juliet's not. She wasn't really that excited to go to the zoo, so I wasn't going to drop the money on the zoo. And I am glad. I am glad that we did kind of unusual activities that not everybody does. I think if you wanted to replicate horseback riding and you have younger kids, you could still go to Ponyland and just do a little ride there. They have, short little kids rides that kind of stay on the farm. That would be very cute. Some great picture taking and video taking opportunities. I am not sure that there is anything that I would change except taking some motion sickness medicine and baking in more time for Coronado Island. One other thing that I didn't mention that I did, but that I think people should sneak in if they could, when we returned the Turo car, we parked it where we were supposed to park it. And then I walked across the street and up a very steep set of stairs to the University of San Diego, which has the most incredible campus. The architecture of this is stunning. I felt like I was in like Rome or something. It is the most beautiful campus. And because they were on break, it was just empty and you could just explore it and look at these gorgeous buildings. If you're over there, it is worth popping in to look at. It's very, very beautiful. And I just ended up having an Uber pick me up there and take me back to the hotel. I returned the car a day early, which ended up being the best choice that I have ever made because of what ensued the following day on our way home. So those are all the little tips.
Yay! And it's been fun to watch. It's going to be fun to watch your stories and your reels. So if anybody wants to see more, see visuals of all these things that we're describing, go on over to Joanna's Instagram page at Points to Wonderland. So our podcast is Wonderland on Points, and you can find our podcast Instagram page at Wonderland on Points podcast, but Joanna's personal page is at Points to Wonderland, a little flip around of the words. So go check that out, see more about this trip. And Joanna, thank you for sharing, because it's been fun to watch, fun to learn about, because even though I briefly went to San Diego, it was on the tail end of a trip. We did not have much time to spend there. And so now I feel like I want to go back. I want to see the beaches. I want to see Coronado Island. I want to jet ski. I want to do all those things. So you have, you've really laid it out there for people in a way that we can replicate it. So I love that so much.
It's been so fun to share this with you guys. It's very fresh in my head now. Please reach out if you have any questions about replicating this. Obviously, trying to shove this all into an hour means that we're missing some things. So I am going to be posting a lot about it on my Instagram. I'm going to be getting very into the weeds. And I'm also going to be making a post in the Facebook group, kind of recapping this. So the Facebook group is a really good place where you guys can come over, ask questions, share about your own trips and redemptions. We would love to have you there. Our Facebook is called Traveling on Points, Wonderland on Points. So if you put that in over on Facebook, we will come up. You will find us. Join the Facebook group. We would love to have you. Thank you guys so much for being here with us today. And we are excited to see you back here next time.
Bye, everybody.
If you enjoyed this show today, please consider writing us a review or clicking 5 stars wherever you listen to your podcasts. And please subscribe and follow along so that you never miss an episode.
You can follow the podcast on Instagram or YouTube at Wonderland on Points Podcast. You can find me on Instagram at Family Travel for the Win with the number 4.
And you can find me on Instagram at Points to Wonderland.
If you're thinking about getting a new Travel Rewards credit card, consider using the links in our show notes. Using our links helps to support us and keep our podcast going, so we can provide you with all the latest tips and tricks when it comes to traveling on points.
And if you aren't sure which card is right for you, shoot us an email at wonderlandonpoints@gmail.com, and we would be happy to walk you through a free card consultation. That's also a great place to send us all of your comments and questions. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you here next time.